Our purpose here today is different organizations is to call on the governor to veto Senate Bill 1440. From a perspective of homeschool families, the general public is usually not aware that CPS can go to any school and remove their child, interview that child, examine that child, transport that child for an investigation without the knowledge or the consent of the parent. Fortunately for homeschoolers, we still have the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that prevents unreasonable searches and seizures. The reason that we oppose Senate Bill 1440 is this bill lowers the bar on the legal standard currently required for CPS to prove to a judge that they have good cause shown before they can force a family to waive their Fourth Amendment rights. This bill would lower that to simply using an affidavit without the notice of the parent, and it would lower that to a fair probability that the child is abused or neglected. In talking today with our legal counsel, who is an attorney who does appellate work on CPS cases, he conveyed to us that the effect of this bill would be to take away the advantage that families who refuse to allow CPS into their home in terms of going before a judge and presenting both sides of the case would result in the abuse of families all across this state. Let me play out for you what happens to a lot of homeschool families who have anonymous, sometimes vindictive allegations made to them by CPS. A CPS worker comes to the door, and although the law requires CPS to tell the parent what the charges are, very often they refuse to do so because they have not yet interviewed the child. The CPS worker generally says, unless you allow me into your home, let me interview your children separately, examine them, look at your home, unless you allow me to do that, you are not cooperating with my investigation. And I will go to court, and very often these situations are ex parte hearings. In other words, the only people there are the CPS attorney and the judge, even if the family has an attorney. And so currently, the law requires good cause shown. This bill will not only violate parental rights, it is an assault on the Fourth Amendment right of parents in the state. And Governor Perry has been a good friend of homeschoolers and a good friend of parents, and we call on him to do the right thing and to veto Senate Bill 1440. Hear, hear. Let me introduce now a friend of mine, Jonathan Saenz with the Free Market Foundation.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Saenz. I'm a constitutional attorney and legislative director for Free Market Foundation. We also have a legal division where we work on constitutional cases before federal courts, state courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We have been involved in some of the leading cases regarding parental rights and have been victorious in protecting the parental rights of people here in our own state. The Court of Appeals, the Federal Court of Appeals that governs Texas, has been very clear on this issue. The government may not seize a child from his or her parents without parental consent, without a court order, or without some reasonable cause that there's some type of imminent threat of danger or harm that the child is in. Our state, our children are not children of the state. The constitutional rights. The constitutional rights of parents should not be cast aside because of last-minute moves here at the legislature. We think it's very clear that if Governor Perry does not veto this bill, Texas homes and Texas children will be subjected to illicit invasions. And we're not going to stand by and let that happen. Thank you. Next, I want to introduce to y'all Brian Russell, and he'll tell you all about the fine work and his position on this issue.
Good afternoon. This is Brian Russell. I'm here representing Texas Eagle Forum. I'm also a member of the State Republican Executive Committee. This is an issue of grave concern to us all. As has been stated, we're calling upon Governor Perry to today veto this bad legislation to protect parental rights across Texas. The lowering of the bar for CPS workers to come in and invade a home, examine a child without parental consent is a grave concern not only to homeschool families, but to all families. Any good, reasonable, loving parent can be subject of an unreasonable allegation that somehow their child is abused or neglected. Those parents need the right to face the charges brought against them in a hearing before their children are subjected to these invasions of the home and intrusive investigations, perhaps even strip searches, psychological exams, or transportation to places that the parents are unaware of. Because Governor Perry has been such a friend to Texas families, I believe that we can count upon him to veto this bill, and we do call upon him today to do just that, to protect parental rights in Texas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Butler, Executive Director of the Libertarian Party of Texas. We're here for a variety of reasons today. First is that we support families as an integral part of society. We're also here because this bill, was snuck into legislation at the very last minute. Usually the local and consent calendar is used for non-controversial legislation, and the fact that 1440 was snuck onto this calendar and passed in such a way is really a very just horrible abuse of the system. And we call on Governor Perry to veto this law, or this bill rather, and I'm sure that he will promptly. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Lynn Ward, and I'm here on behalf of the Parent Guidance Center. I am not one of the principals. The principals, Johanna Scott and Judy Powell, are in Washington, D.C., fighting on behalf of parental rights as I speak. The Parent Guidance Center has been very active down here at the legislature fighting bills of this nature. And in fact, they noticed this bill in its first incarnation as Senate Bill 1064, and they submitted written testimony against it. However, their written testimony did not make it into the record. So it has been represented that this bill had no opposition, and that is very far from the truth. The Parent Guidance Center wants me to tell you that the rest of the country watches Texas in issues like this. The rest of the country is very afraid that this sort of legislation may come to them. I join with the Parent Guidance Center in requesting that Governor Perry veto this bill.
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Medina, and I'm here representing the Campaign for Liberty. I want to echo, I think, the sentiments of everyone gathered here this afternoon and wishing the governor a speedy recovery. We understand that he had an accident yesterday evening, so we want to hope for his speedy recovery. But also to remind him that he's got some very critical bills sitting on his desk, and SB 1440 is one of those. Campaign for Liberty is happy to join with other organizations around the state that are represented here today in calling for that veto and in standing in support of parental and family rights in the state of Texas. Thank you.
How do you do? My name is Pierre de Rochemont, and I'm here representing the Republican Liberty Caucus of Texas. And we are currently urging Governor Perry to veto SB 1440. And our statewide caucus is currently expressing alarm that a last-minute amendment to overturn legal precedents and constitutional rights was actually snuck into a bill in the 11th hour. We're asking the governor to consider recent rulings by the Texas Supreme Court and the Fifth Court of Appeals that struck down similar overreach in CPS authority in Gary W. Gates versus the Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services. And we also want to point out to the people that sound and just law never comes from backroom maneuverings. And furthermore, it's very important that everybody know that we do not want to do anything to permit or promulgate child abuse. Anybody who has a member of their family who's experienced it knows how horrible this occurrence is, and we should do everything we can to eradicate it. But we have to do it in a sound and just manner, and this is the principal reason why we're asking the governor to veto this bill. Thank you.
My name is Paul Perry. I'm an active mediator in cases involving children. I'm very concerned that in a system that is sometimes balanced against parents and parental rights, that this particular bill will further that imbalance, and I would call upon the governor to follow what I hope will be his instincts and veto this bill. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming out today, parents and the media. And we'll be around as individuals to take questions if any of you have them. Thank you so much for coming.